Another story I worry about is this one. We're seeing this happening more and more, that there are active creationists. These are people who believe the Earth is 6,000 years old, all right, and they are working their way through graduate school. Now, I think it's wonderful if people go out to get educated, and I think it would be great if more of these creationists were motivated and got out there and got good educations and got into graduate school. But these particular creationists do so dishonestly. They are going through graduate school with an agenda, and that agenda is not to learn, it's not to understand the history of the world as it really is, but it's in order simply to get these kind of credentials as PhDs in a science, so that they have this false authority when they get up in front of cheering crowds and say, yeah, the evolutionists have all been lying to you, and I know because I went through graduate school. Marcus Ross is one who graduated from the University of Rhode Island just recently, like a year or so ago. He got a PhD in paleontology, studying the distribution of mosasaurs in the Cretaceous 65 million years ago. He's a young Earth creationist. Think about that. You know, at the same time he was going to graduate school, he was going to various conferences sponsored by the Discovery Institute and others. He sought to be a rising star in creationism. He's going to these various conferences that are all creationist intelligent design conferences and getting up there and claiming that he's got evidence against evolution. Not a peep of that got into his thesis, of course. So it's like he's living this double life. And that's troubling. That's not the way graduate school should be. Graduate school should be a process where you learn, you get all kinds of new information, and you think, and you assess, and you evaluate, and you learn how to assess the information. And he's actually short-circuited that and is not thinking as he goes through and learns all this stuff. As he presents data, as he collects evidence in favor of evolutionary explanations, he's sort of publicly denying it. Well, anyway, he got his comeuppance. He's now employed at Liberty U. So that seems to be where a lot of them are ending up. Nathaniel Abraham was another sad story. This was a fellow who got employed at Cold Spring Harbor in a lab in my field, actually. He was going to be studying zebrafish, and he got hired to work in this zebrafish lab, which is a lab that is studying the phylogeny of zebrafish. They're doing molecular analyses and interpreting that to define the history of the zebrafish species. As where did teleos come from? And looking at lots of different species and doing comparative genomics. And he was employed there, and a few weeks later he told the professor, his employer, that no, you know, he couldn't really write these papers because he didn't believe a word of it. And he got fired right away. And his response was then to try and sue the university to allow him to continue working there, which is mind-boggling. What is he going to do if he's refusing to interpret the evidence that the lab is producing? He's kind of useless. Anyway, he lost his case, and last I heard, he was also ending up he may be at Liberty University. He's at some Bible college somewhere. So, you know, they've got fallbacks. So it's not too tragic to kick them out of these positions. Jonathan Wells is the one I really get upset about. Jonathan Wells got his degree from the University of California, Berkeley. Have you heard of it? Yeah, it's a fairly well-known school, right? And it's got a great biology program. It's got a great evolutionary biology program. I got to go give a talk there this past summer. It was specifically their integrated evolution and development group. So these are people who are doing evo-devo. There's a hot new field in evolution and development. They're very cutting edge on evolutionary biology. And you know, I got to get up here and I said, okay, you know, there's these creationists going through the graduate school programs, and one of them is yours. How did you screw up this badly? And they really didn't have an answer for me, but it's a real problem. Wells went through this program. He did what any of us would consider pretty lackluster performance, especially for Berkeley, where he got out with his degree and he had his name on one paper, and it was something like third author. It's just really incredible mediocrity to get that level of performance. But now he's at the Discovery Institute and he writes books in which he accuses evolutionists of being liars and cheaters and faking everything and taking evidence out of context, and these are the most awful books. I could lecture at you for a few hours if you wanted about just one of his books icons of evolution about how bad it is. Jonathan Wells is, we also know his motivation. He announced this. He openly admitted it, that he's a Moonie, and he had a revelation from Father, Reverend Sun Myung Moon, that he ought to go to graduate school and get a degree so that he could destroy Darwinism. Again, this is the antithesis of what the graduate experience should be. It is an experience where you're learning, not where you're going in with a predetermined agenda, accumulating letters after your name so that you sound authoritative when you get in front of audiences and denounce a science.